We're heading a little bit further north up to the Pilbara to hear from De Grey Mining. Our next guest and his team are working on a multi-million ounce gold potential within their Pilbara Gold project. Please let me introduce the Executive Chairman of De Grey Mining, Simon Lill.
Okay, this is a presentation that was released last week, so you're not going to get any new news today. 2 years ago, a well-known Perth mining identity said to me, Simon, there's no gold in the Pilbara, you're wasting your time, it's going to be a very hard project. Since that time, we've gone from 350,000 ounces of resources to just over 1.2 million ounces. Some of that's been through land acquisition, but let me tell you, there is a full-on gold rush happening in the Pilbara. There's virtually no spare tenements available, no spare land available. The price of acquisition of tenements has increased substantially. There are prospectors, amateur and prospectors who are doing it through the right processes all over the ground. There are fights between the station owners and the prospectors who are leaving gates open, cutting down fences when the gates are getting shut. There's a lot happening out there. When we get to our Loudon's Patch project and start opening up that, we're already talking about having 24-hour people there for fear of the prospectors. And like all good gold rushes, the people that's actually making the money is the mining services company in Karratha. They've sold, at the last figure that I've heard, was about 1,500 metal detectors at $10,000 a pop. You can work out the margin, so they've done very, very nicely out of this. But what has been happening is that gold, at least nuggety gold, has been more widespread across the Pilbara than people had previously imagined. Our story in many ways starts back in August of last year at Diggers and Dealers, which was when we first heard about this land grab that a Canadian company, Novo Resources, had undertaken. We've got a map out in our booth there that shows the amount of land Novo acquired in the Pilbara. They had increased their market capitalisation from about 100 million to 700 million, and they and Novo, the way I describe it, had built this massive bonfire up in the Pilbara that, as Novo are Canadian listed, the Australians hadn't really picked it up. We got on top of it, credit to our geologists. We've got a very, very good geological team. And we came up, and you'll see the slide a little bit later on, with the eponymous water seed melon nuggets that now everyone knows about in the Pilbara. We'd gone into price trading halt at 5.5 cents. We released the announcement, came out at 15 cents. We had a call from Canada, can we put $5 million into your company? This is a rare thing when you're a junior explorer, so we couldn't say yes quickly enough. And we agreed $5 million at 15 cents, with the investor being Kirkland Lake. We go back into trading halt for another couple of days, watch the grand final in Victoria with some comfort, and come out again on Monday at 25 cents. So we had a pretty exciting last week in September. Since then, our share price has drifted back. I think we're roughly 15 cents today. Our story is that we are underpinned by a very, very good structural gold project which has got 1.2 million ounces, and we have the X factor of the conglomerates. This presentation could take me an hour, and I'll just go and flick through to relevant slides. You can read your competent person statement and the disclosures there. So we've got a very large land holding that we have put together. We'd put this together before the big gold boom that started by Novo. To finish my story off, actually, I said Novo built this bonfire, we lit this match, and since we showed the watermelon seed nuggets, there's been something close to $150 million has been raised for Pilbara gold companies for exploration purposes. So suddenly somebody does believe that there is gold in the Pilbara. So this is our land holding, and hopefully that shows up well enough. From the northeastern end to the southwestern end, that's something like 160 kilometres. We describe ourselves as having over 200 kilometres of shear zone hosted mineralisation. These are the shear zones that you can see. That's the Tabba Tabba shear zone. This is the Molina shear zone. This is the southeastern shear zone, which is another structure. We acquired this land in August in a whole lot of, that's a farm-in land. We have this land under option with the Chinese group, and De Grey has always owned this land. So this project in many ways disappeared from sight in 2008, and the market hasn't been aware of the size of this shear zone. We've been very fortunate perhaps to put it all together as we have. That shear zone, less than 10% of it's been drill tested. It's a little bit like the Loch Ness Monster. A rocky outcrop will come out of the surface and they've drilled it. When it disappears underneath the surface, it hasn't been drilled. So we're doing more works in the magnetics. There is a whole host, if I get to the slide, of orphan drill holes that have excellent results that have not really been properly followed up. The main resources that we've got are all open on at all directions, and we also believe that there's significant potential as we look to go underground at our two main zones, which is Windgina, which is close to 300,000 ounce resource at the moment, and Withnell, which is at 377,000 ounces. So they form the bulk of our 1.2 million ounces. One of the big benefits that we have in the structural gold is that those two are pretty well all measured and indicated. So in terms of going into feasibility studies and drill outs, our two main resources don't need a lot of work. So we have been drilling at the moment, and I think I was speaking to somebody earlier, we've probably been quiet from an ASX announcement in recent times. That's because we've been waiting. The conglomerate zones are out here, and we've been waiting for native title clearance, which we announced about 3 weeks ago that it had commenced. Finally, it's been unusually difficult. What's happened in the region, there's a number of tenements under application, and native title clearances of all sorts are under pressure. So it's actually, they're all very, very busy out there. Not easy to get to the right people, not easy to get their time availability. They've completed their work. We're just awaiting the final report. We believe that it's positive and we should be able to commence work on the conglomerate zone in the nearest future. But since then, we've been doing infill drilling at Mount Berghouse. That's about 148,000 ounces, mainly of inferred, but we've been taking that to indicated and looking at some extensions there. Those results will be pending. Molina is a similar size, which is over here. So that's mainly at inferred, that's 147,000 ounces. We're taking that to indicated. Taurana is a structure that we're very positive about. So we did a round of drilling there in November and had some good results. So again, we're moving to indicated, and there's some extensional there. And we're now up at Amanda up here, doing again the same thing. That's one of our resources. That's only showing 35,000 ounces. We've got, I think that's got a lot of potential as well. There's a slide, again, if I get to it down here. There's been isolated drilling back in the late, through the 90s, early noughties up here. Virtually nothing down here. But again, we've had some really interesting soil samples and rock chip samples down in this area. So we've got that next step there is we're going to be flying magnetics over that, and there'll be a round of air core RC in the second half. So the real news there is that we do have a lot of ASX releases coming through over the next 6 months as we work through pre-feasibility, drill outs, exploration, resource upgrades, etc., etc. And that really, ASX announcements have been isolated in the last 6 months, but they will increase significantly pretty well from about 2 weeks' time. Look, we're also, as we go through PFS work, we are very confident. So this line here, Withnell and Windgina. Withnell, over 150 metres, has got a resource that's greater than 1,000 ounces per vertical metre. It's got a number of intersections below 100 to 150 metres that are greater than 15 gram per metres. We're very confident that it should go underground. I need to say those words carefully, and we're having a very good look at Withnell and Windgina. Windgina's got intersections below its open pit that we've identified at 20 metres at 10 grams per tonne. It's got a high-grade plunging chute that is well identified. So we're very comfortable that those two should go underground, and will add resource ounces to us fairly quickly with the right level of drill hole testing. So we've got a fairly significant diamond hole test program coming up as well. Oops, sorry. And then I'll just point out this. It's on that map. There's something like 40 soil anomalies that have not been tested as yet. And there's areas where you won't get soil anomalies because they're on open plains. there. The Loch Ness Monster has disappeared under the ground. There's massive river systems that run through there. They don't always flow, of course, but so there are areas where you're not going to get soil anomalies. Regardless, we've got over 40 that have been untested, and we've got anomalies up to 1.8 grams per tonne at soil surface, at soil anomaly level. So we've got a lot of work in the exploration sense that we're looking at in the next 6 months as well. So look, basically we're looking to complete a pre-feasibility based on 1 million tonnes per annum, looking to try and get the ounces up to 100,000 ounces through looking at some pre-concentration activities, but also looking at the underground. To go underground, we're going to need 5 or 6 grams a tonne, and that inherently will also get our production profile up. So PFS should be completed by the end of the year, when we will then make our next decision as to whether we go into feasibility study or whether we've got enough work there to show that our resources, which are 1.2 million ounces, can go to 2 million ounces to 3 million ounces, and where else they can go from there. So now the story that everyone is mainly interested in is the Conglomerate story. Again, that's this zone out here to the immediate west. Our first area is Loudon's Patch here, where we first showed the watermelon seed nuggets. It's far more accessible than these two, Jarrett Well and Stillwell. Loudon's Patch, there's a prospector right at our proximity who has opened up his area, so it's a much more accessible hill. We should have the clearance through shortly. We should get to it, I would hope, during June. It's on the side of a hill. It's different to the Novo structure at Powerline that they're currently doing work on. We're looking at just excavating, opening up the conglomerates. The conglomerates don't get exposed right across the hill, but we are confident that there are going to be conglomerates within the hill. And sorry, that's this is just showing very quickly. That's our Withnell trend, and it's just showing a number of the intersections that haven't really been followed up. 38 metres at 1.09 grams here, 17 at 2.07 there. We just think there's a lot of potential to increase along that trend as well. I'm trying to get Mount Berghouse is the other one that I touched on. I'm just trying to flick through quickly. So that's the Fano ground there, and you can have a quick look at some of those intersections that, again, there's no resources there, but plenty of excitement to follow up there. So I'm just flicking through. That's showing the porosity of drilling greater than 100 metres, and further the porosity of drilling greater than 150 metres, which where it's in the red there, that's where it's been drilled, which are on our major deposits. So I'm just trying to flick through to Loudon's Patch here. That's one of the gold nuggets. That's showing that the gold nuggets are hosted by the conglomerates. That was the first time we actually showed that it was actually contained within the conglomerates. There'll be a lot of talk that it's like Witwatersrand. People wax and wane with that. I've been shot down in flames by people saying it's nothing like Witwatersrand. I've got no idea. I'm not a technical person, and we don't really care as long as there's gold in the conglomerates. It doesn't really worry us too much. But anyway, so this is the Loudon's Patch area. So you can see in certain areas there's basalt scree covering over the conglomerates. This is where the prospector has opened up a fair bit of ground, and we've found the nuggets further around here to the south. We've had an announcement about a month ago that shows that we've done a series of stream sediment sampling right across the around the hill. That hill's actually a lot bigger than it looks. But nonetheless, it's a lot better than Jarrett Well and Stillwell. But the stream sediment sampling shows that the hill is shedding gold. So we're very convinced that the gold is coming from the conglomerates. What we don't know is grade, consistency. These are the issues that Novo are still probably leading the way. The bonfire that was built was certainly inflamed by their initial bulk sample, which came out at 69 grams per tonne. They've got a market cap at the moment of $700 to $800 million on the back of that. They don't have any gold resources. It's one of the big debates. How do you get a resource out of this sort of mineralisation? Again, I'm not even sure that we do need a resource. But look, what we'll be looking to do is just, with an excavator, open up these side areas, expose the conglomerates, do some bulk sampling. Is bulk sampling a couple of tonnes? Is it 250 kilograms? We will learn from where Novo are at, but we think we can get some reasonably quick results just by crushing and putting it over a gravity separator or similar, because as I said, it doesn't really matter to us if it's 15 grams per tonne or 15.7 grams per tonne. or 7.8 grams per tonne. If we can show that, yes, we've got these nuggets coming out around that hill from the conglomerates, our job in the first instance is done. And it's all about helping to prove the market that these conglomerates are shedding gold. And the marketplace in Australia remains very sceptical about it. I think some people are gradually coming along. The North Americans are all over it and are very much true believers in it. And the other announcements that will be coming through that are pending that will influence our share price significantly, either upward or downward, of course, is that Novo, the market's been awaiting their bulk samples. And I guess in finishing up, I think it was interesting last week that Kirkland Lake, major gold miner, plenty of money to splash around, sure, but they bought 4 million shares at $5 in Novo to add to their already existing investment, and they've exposed themselves very significantly. Let's assume that these guys are intelligent people and know what they're talking about. They made that investment last week, so we'll wait those Novo results with interest. Thank you.